Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. I'm your host, TheDividendAristocrat, and in today's video, I'm excited to be talking about my dividend income for the month of December. Now, this was the last month to wrap up 2025, so I'm super excited to cover all my dividend income, and to give you guys a bit of a hint, it smashed my past record for my biggest month ever. As a reminder, this is not financial advice, and I'm just merely sharing my opinions on this channel. Now, with that being said, let's start by taking a look at my portfolio dashboard. Now, I have missed a couple of uploads, and it's because I've been in the process of moving, so it's been pretty hectic, but I'm hoping that in 2026 I can get back to my normal routine and post at least weekly update videos. Now, if you guys do enjoy this type of content and appreciate the transparency, consider subscribing to the channel. It does help out the channel a ton. So we have a lot to get through, and I'm going to try to keep this pretty brief. In total, I have invested $53,000 into the portfolio, and the current value sits at $77,800. Now, my unrealized gain is at about $24,470, and my total return is at 45.86%. Now, in terms of dividend earned so far, I've earned over $2,400, and going forward, I'm projected to earn over $1,100 per year. That gives me a current portfolio yield of just about 1.44% and a yield based on my initial cost of about 2.1%. Now, I currently have 20 different holdings and my cash position is at about $7,600, so we'll have to see where I deploy this money in 2026. Now, right down here, I like to take a look at this, especially since we finally wrapped up the year and we can see how much I invested and how much dividends I've received each month since starting this portfolio. So to give you some perspective, in 2020 I invested $2,800 and the following year I invested $3,000 with my dividend income going from $12.45 to $76. Now fast forward to today, I've of course invested a lot more money since then, but in 2025 I was able to put in about $19,000 into the portfolio. Now in terms of dividend received, this year I actually received $1,048 in total, and we'll fact check this in a little bit when we go check out my dividend calendar. Now you can see how quickly the growth has been here so far. I expect it to slow down over the next couple years. As my portfolio value gets larger, it's going to get harder to continue increasing this dividend as quickly as I have in the past. Especially since these days I tend to focus on lower dividend yielding stocks, and at first when I started investing I was focusing on slightly higher dividend yielding stocks. Now since this is the end of the year recap, let's quickly take a look at my annual dividend payout per stock. So just to name a few of the big ones, we have VOO, schd, and Altria Group. After that, some of the other significant ones include United Health, Target, and Texas Instruments, with the rest being some pretty small dividends overall. So without further delay, let's just take a look at my dividends for the month of December, and it was quite a few names here. It always tends to be my largest month of the year and by a pretty significant margin most years. So to start off the month, we had Visa, and I'll just explain the first one thoroughly, and for the rest, I'll just run down the prices. So basically, Visa paid me a dividend of $2.05, which I reinvested back into the stock in order to buy 0.06 shares at a price of $341.67 per share. Now that we got that out of the way, you can see right here, Target paid me almost $30, SPGI at $4.88, PayPal at $6.16, and I believe this is the first PayPal dividend I received, so that's pretty cool. And then we have Microsoft at $3.73, 3M at 82 cents, SCHD at a whopping $70.80, which is the largest SCHD dividend I ever received, Google at $7.38. United Health has two separate dividends because I hold it in both my Vanguard account and my Fidelity account, so a total of about $30 right there. Northrop Grumman Corporation at $2.40, Home Depot at almost $5, and VOO with its largest dividend that it's paid me out, I believe, at $67.61. Now, one of the cool ones here, of course, is SCHD at $70.80. I was able to reinvest it back into the company and buy 2.551 more shares of this ETF at $27.75 per share. In terms of what stocks I purchased for the month, we just have my regular weekly purchases. So I tend to buy one share of SCHD and $100 of VOO each and every week. But as you can see right here, I actually started out the month with a more substantial buy. I bought 4 shares of SCHD and $400 of VOO. And that's because I was so busy that I was not on top of my weekly investments. I actually don't do them automated. I like to do them manually to make sure I'm buying at a time that I like, just in case there's a big spike for some reason that I want to be purchasing at. So because I forgot to make those purchases, I had to do a catch-up contribution basically. So I bought 4 shares to make up for the SCHD and $400 of VOO to make up for 4 missed weeks. Now following that, I've been pretty consistent since then. I bought 100 of VOO, 1 share of SCHD, and then again I bought the same thing a week later. Now for 2026, I haven't found the time to really consider what my strategy is going to be. I'm not sure if I'm going to continue the same exact strategy, if I'm going to make adjustments to it. In the meantime, I'm going to continue purchasing this $100 and 1 share of SCHD per week. But once I make a decision, I'll be sure to post a video on it and let you guys know my investing plan for 2026. I'm pretty confident that it's going to be fairly similar or even exactly the same, but I just want to make sure I set aside some time just in case to think about it. Now, before we leave this tab in my spreadsheet, we can see right here, I also have some money in money market dividends, and that's where you guys saw that $7,600 in settled cash. Basically, it just sits in money market funds in both my Fidelity and Vanguard account, and I got paid out $12.67 from my Vanguard account and $12.28 from my Fidelity account. So now we can jump into my dividend calendar, and this is my favorite sheet within the spreadsheet right now, and I've been saying that for quite some time. It's just an awesome way to visualize how my dividends have been compounding over time and a good way to visualize how much dividends I've received across the entire year. So on the left hand column right here, you can see every single ticker that I owned at least at some portion of this year. And then up top on the rows, you can see the different months right here and the total in the final column. So the way this works, and we'll use Home Depot as my example for today because I haven't added any new shares this year, is that every time I get a dividend payment, it's going to populate in this cell right here automatically. And you can see the total going across the whole year for Home Depot right here at $19.46. Now the nice thing is you can visualize how it's been growing over time. So I got paid out $482 and reinvested it back in. My next payment was $485, the next one was $488, and the last one was $491. And those are basically just growing from both reinvestments and any sort of dividend increases that the company does announce. Now with my ETFs, you can see it's more sporadic because for one, I'm adding more shares each week into a company like, or into an ETF like schd. So it's $51 at first, and now it's at $70.80. But also the composition of this ETF does change over time, so dividend can be influenced by that. In total, I earned $244 from schd this year, and down here, VOO narrowly beat it out at $246 for the entire year. Now in this most recent payment, VOO definitely lost to schd, but we'll have to see how this structures up next year because schd does a lot more rebalances than VOO does. Now what's neat is we can also take a look at the columns themselves. So for the full month of December, the total amount was $224.05, and the total amount for the year is $1,042.21. Now the reason this one doesn't line up with the one we had on our dashboard, that one was about $1,048, because right now I don't have PayPal on here. I was actually only including the stocks that currently pay dividend as to not waste any space. I guess aside from Intel, but Intel used to pay a dividend at one point or another. But now that PayPal does pay a dividend, I'll probably replace it with Intel, and we can technically do that right now. So typing in PayPal instead of Intel, once we press enter, you can see it automatically populate, and now there's a $6.16 dividend right here, and that brings our total up to $1,048.37. Now this is one of my older sheets in the spreadsheet, but I still take a look at my monthly breakdown section. The main point of it was to kind of track how much I was investing and how much dividends I received each month, every single year since I started this portfolio out. So if we scroll all the way to the top, we can see my investments initially right here. I did a lump sum in October of 2020 and then didn't invest for many months after that. Now since then, I have become a much more consistent investor, which is pretty nice. So scrolling all the way down to 2025, and I'll have to add a 2026 section right here when I have the chance, but you can see that in green, I have a conditional formatting that automatically highlights the maximum amount of money I earned in dividends in a single month. So before this month, it was highlighting March of 2025, and we're getting pretty close to beating that in both June and September, but couldn't quite hit the mark. Now, I was pretty confident that December would be able to beat out that number because at that point I have VOO and schd paying on the same month, which tends to be a pretty big month for me. Now in this case, it was actually much larger than I expected. At $230, it was substantially greater than the amount we earned in March of 2025. Now this graph right here just helps track how that's been growing over time. It's pretty sporadic because of my high concentration in ETFs, but overall it is trending up over time. Now if I do decide to continue these weekly investments into VOO and schd, then I'll be pretty excited to see my dividend income for December of 2026. It should be pretty large, especially compared to this year. Now I always like to go into my portfolio holdings section and filter out for the companies that paid me out this month, but in this case we have a bunch of companies, so I still made sure to filter them out, but I'll have to go over them just a little bit more briefly than usual. Now if you guys do want me to feature any specific companies in a future video, definitely let me know in the comments down below and I'll be happy to spotlight them in a specific video dedicated to them. So in this case, what I did here first is I organized them from highest total return to lowest total return. So my best performer out of the bunch is Google stock at over a double at 120%. And the worst performer is actually PayPal at negative 14%. Now I still have pretty high hopes for this company. Right now it's a bit of a bummer that I'm in the red, but if the price goes down much lower than this, I actually have some limit orders set at specific prices. I don't remember the exact prices, but I know that one of them is around $55 per share. So just to keep you guys in the loop, that's my next plan with the company. Now my position is getting a little bit larger than I originally anticipated at over $4,000, but I do have a high bit of conviction in the stock, so we'll have to see how that plays out. I don't want to grow this position too much larger, but if it does present more buying opportunities, I'll definitely be taking advantage of them as long as fundamentals remain intact. Now, Target is finally in the green after a long time of being red, but unfortunately United Health is still in the red. It's been a pretty rough time for me holding this stock. Now, just to show you guys in terms of amount invested, my largest position is VOO, which makes sense, and then followed by schd, and those are both the foundation of my portfolio. Now, some of my other positions are very small. I only ever bought one share of Northrop Grumman Corporation and one share of 3M, so they're pretty tiny positions. Now, I would love to put more money into S&P Global and Microsoft, but the price just doesn't seem right now, so I've been holding off on that, but if I see an opportunity, I'll definitely be taking advantage of it. Now, in terms of current value, it's funny, Google and United Health swap pretty aggressively. United Health is in the negatives, of course, and Google is at over a double, so it's a very large position of mine. Now, the last thing I want to highlight in this video is my dividend earned so far from these companies. So the highest one is at $843, and that's VOO, followed by SCHD at $600, which is pretty substantial. Now, at the bottom of the list, as we'd expect, we have both 3M and PayPal. PayPal is a large position, but has a very low starting dividend yield, and it's a new dividend paying stock. And then 3M is actually a pretty decent dividend yield, but unfortunately, I only own one share of the company. Now, as always, that does bring us to the end of today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed taking a look at December's dividend income. It's the last and biggest month of the year for me, and it's been super exciting. Now, I have some fun videos planned for 2026, and if you did make it to the end of today's video, definitely let me know down below both how much dividend income you earned and if you have any specific videos you want to see in the future highlighted on the channel. If you haven't yet watched last week's video where I talked about my top 3 stocks, check out this video right here. And if you want to see how much dividend income I earned in the month of November, check out this video right here. Remember, the best time to invest was 10 years ago. The second best time is today. I want to thank every single one of you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.